Hi there. I'm Tercy Engelhardt, and I want to take a moment and welcome you to my podcast, Unreasonably Grateful. And as I shared before, every week I know there are new listeners, people who have either recently discovered the podcast, it's popped up in their feed, or maybe they've heard about my book, which I'm currently in a series of reading stories from. And I just want to remind you that I don't have your answers. You do, but we do learn from one another's stories. So perhaps listening to my story will bring up something for you that helps you see it in maybe a new way, differently than you saw it in the past, and perhaps give you a little bit more freedom or a little bit more wiggle room. So, welcome. I'm happy to have you here. And then, obviously, for those of you who have been with me for a while, welcome back. And thank you for being a part of my journey and for sharing your journey with me. So, this particular episode is going to be released on the week before Christmas. So, sometimes during the holiday season, it's even a little bit more difficult than usual for people struggling with their own personal growth journey, which could easily include addiction. And for me, it was an eating disorder. So this is my 37th year of recovery from 20 years of an eating disorder. And I know the holidays can be challenging. So hang in there, take baby steps, do what you need to do to set yourself up to kind of be victorious over the urges that would have us get distracted by ourselves being anything other than absolutely amazing and incredibly created. So I hope that this podcast reminds you of who you really are. Okay, so this particular story, for those of you who are following along in the book, is chapter 11. The date is 1993, and it's on page 26. I felt as if I was in a new world, one I often felt lost in. A mother of three in my late 30s, and yet unsure of just about everything. I had always admired and been inspired by Katharine Hepburn. I saw a picture of her on the cover of People magazine at a checkout stand and thought, she won't live forever. I should write to her and share how much I appreciate her, how she inspires me. As I walked to my car, I realized I was beginning to feel, after years of being numb. I sat down to write, and I couldn't even figure out how to start. Was it, Dear Miss Hepburn, or Hey, Katherine? As silly as it seems, is how silly I felt. I crossed it out and tossed the piece of paper into the basket. I did this more than once. The letter was always on my mind. While in a bookstore one day, I picked up a copy of her autobiography and I read my finger down page after page, drinking in every word as if I was searching for something. I came across the address of her family's summer home in Connecticut. I felt like a teenager who was starstruck, living in a middle-aged body. I finally crafted a letter of gratitude and shared a bit of the struggle that I was going through in recovery. I walked past a mailbox on the street a day or so later, and while I was still hesitant to drop the letter in, I just knew there was a lesson in this for me. So I let it slip out of my fingers and fall to the pile of other letters awaiting pickup. I immediately wished I could retrieve it. Months later, there was a small envelope with a handwritten note from New York, return address, that arrived in my mail. To my surprise, I opened it and I found a sweet handwritten note from Katharine Hepburn, thanking me for writing to her and encouraging me in my own life. I looked at the shaky handwriting and I could almost hear her voice. I thought about her taking the time to write a handwritten reply. I felt gratitude seeping into the cracks of my heart. So, the lesson in this particular chapter that I've noted says, don't wait to do what calls to you, even if you feel foolish. There's so much in this for me, so I'll just share a little bit. You know, when you're in recovery, when you're recovering off those broken off pieces of yourself, you do go back through your childhood and you do relive some of those childish urges or times, maybe some that were ripped away from you that you never felt, that are age appropriate for that age. And yet here you are, an older person, dealing with those same feelings or some of the things that perhaps you never dealt with before. And that's how I felt. And I'm so glad that I wrote that letter, even if I never heard anything. And while I think it's amazing that she did write back, I remember, I remember the importance of just going ahead and breaking through those feelings of foolishness and just doing something that I was inspired to do. So I want to encourage you at this time. I suspect all of us have those things that we'd either like to say or communicate or do that seem more related to a younger version of ourselves. And yet, that urge or that desire, that calling is still there. So do it. Go ahead and do it. It's all right. Being foolish isn't the worst thing that could happen to any of us. And we have to break through sometimes those hesitations that keep us, I don't know, thinking that we are holding it all together when really growing up is a lot about doing things and then learning from what we did as opposed to trying to always get it right. So, on this week before Christmas, maybe there's something that seems foolish, someone you want to reach out to, someone you want to appreciate, or someone you want to apologize to, or something you want to do that seems perhaps inappropriate for where you are in your life. It's okay. It's okay. You get permission. Go ahead and take that on. Go ahead and do that and see if you can't learn the lesson that's attached to that particular event. Okay? So have a beautiful, beautiful holiday season. Slow down, go inward, take good care of yourself, set yourself up to be victorious over whatever it is that wants to distract you or take you out from recognizing how incredible and amazing that you truly are. And again, obviously, share this podcast with someone that you think it'll make a difference for. And thank you again for being here and have a beautiful, beautiful week before Christmas. All right. Thanks a lot. See you next week.